Greetings everyone, this is David Erhan, and today in this video I'm going to be talking about 6 facts about ecumenical councils that Western Christians, both Roman Catholics and Protestants, should know. A lot of people are talking about ecumenical councils these days, but I don't think a lot of people even understand what an ecumenical council is, and this video will help rectify that. This video is also a response to the Roman Catholic claim that the Orthodox are somehow unable to make ecumenical councils, that we are unable to make dogmatic pronouncements, and this is why we are the wrong church. And this argument is wrong on all accounts, and this argument as well will also be responded to in this video. So let's move on with the facts. Fact number 1 is that ecumenical councils are called by emperors, not by popes. The common understanding of an ecumenical council is that it's, in the West today, is that they're called by a pope, and the pope, after the council is done, the pope says, I accept this council, this is an ecumenical council, therefore it is a dogmatic council, and everyone has to accept it. That's not really how it works. They were called by emperors, that's what the name ecumenical refers to, oikumene, it refers to the empire. So really correctly speaking, and you can verify this by just you can literally just look at the Wikipedia page, to be honest. I mean, it tells you which emperor convoked the council, and the name, really correctly speaking, should be imperial council in English term in the English language. Really means imperial council. That's what ecumenical council means. And this is connected with the second point. Not every council called by an emperor, not every council that calls itself an ecumenical council is a dogmatic council or accepted by the church. So I have 2 examples. Number 1 is going to be the robber synod of Ephesus, Ephesus 2. This was in 449, which exonerated the Eutyches and anathematized rights-believing Orthodox fathers such as Saint Flavian of Constantinople. This is on all accounts just not an accepted synod. It's rejected by the Council of Chalcedon, and that's the council that we have accepted as Orthodox Christians. And then there's the Lateran Synod of 649, which is, this council was about the 2 wills in Christ, and it, endorsed the theology of Christ having 2 wills. Now, although the 6th Ecumenical Council, which is the Council of Constantinople 680-681, endorses the beliefs of this council is not an ecumenical council. In fact, Pope Saint Martin refers to it as an ecumenical council, but it is not accepted as an ecumenical council both by the East and the West. In fact, both Pope St. Martin and St. Maximus the Confessor were arrested or abducted by the emperor. And again, it took a couple of years for the theology that was promoted in the Lateran Synod, again in 649, to be accepted by the Orthodox Church. Right, so not every council that calls itself an ecumenical council is automatically an ecumenical council, which again goes against the idea of the Roman Catholic Ecumenical Council. And you can kind of start seeing the idea that the post-schism understanding of an ecumenical council really is different from the pre-schism understanding of what an ecumenical council is. There's a very different way in which it is understood and interpreted. And this is where we get to quite a surprising fact for a lot of people, is that both for in the pre-schism era, both for the Roman Catholics and for the Orthodox, there really aren't even 7 ecumenical councils. In fact, there are 8. If you look at the list of ecumenical councils for the Roman Catholics, one of them you're going to notice is a pre-schism council that's called the Fourth Council of Constantinople in 869. This council deposed Saint Photius of Constantinople and instated Saint Ignatius as the Patriarch of Constantinople. For the Orthodox, there's again also by this a council going by the same name, Fourth Council of Constantinople. This was in 879, which reinstated Saint Photius as the Patriarch of Constantinople. So how do we know which council? You can obviously see that those 2 councils are connected with each other. So how do we know that which council is the right one? Oh well, we just listen to what the guy with the magic hat says in Rome, right? No, that's not what we do. That's not how it works. What happens, there are 2 kind of main reasons. And another interesting fact, before I move on, another interesting fact is that the 8th Ecumenical Council, the Photian Synod, also condemns the filioque. In fact, there's going to be an article in the description below that talks extensively about the Photian Synod. But the Pope at the time, I believe this is Pope John VIII, in his letter to Saint Photius, and this is in in Mansi's collection. The Greek version is in Dositeus. In this letter, there are 3 letters. This is just one of the letters, right? But in the Mansi collection, Pope John VIII, in his letter to Saint Photius, says, "As for the synod that was summoned against your reverence, we have annulled here and have completely banished and have ejected it from our archives, because of the other causes and because our blessed predecessor Pope Hadrian did not subscribe to it." So the council that the Roman Catholics considered as ecumenical was, according to Pope John VIII, Pope John VIII, in fact, was rejected and annulled. Whereas in fact, there are 2 of these letters. One of them was read in the 2nd session of the Founding Council. The other one was read in the 3rd session. Indicates that Saint Photius was accepted as the rightful patriarch of Constantinople. And we can know that this is the case, and this is the Roman view at the time, because Saint Photius died in communion with Rome. I don't think this is a contested fact in today's historiography, both in the East and the West, which showcases that, historically speaking, even the West accepted the Orthodox 8th Ecumenical Council, right? Which, one of the things that this council did was, again, reject the Filioque. Because there's a lot of things going on in Bulgaria and Western missionaries. And St. Photius is also very well known for writing the Mystigage on the Holy Spirit, in which he refutes the Filioque with various arguments, right? So to kind of like get back to the basic point, yes, for Orthodox Christians, the 14th Synod is accepted as ecumenical, but some people refer to it as the 8th Ecumenical Council, but it certainly is dogmatic, whether you want to call it an ecumenical council or not. And again, connected with the previous fact, I believe 4, is that Orthodox Christianity has dogmatic synods after the schism. The 2 examples I'm going to give is the Black Knight Synod in 1285, in which there was a response to the Filioque doctrine in the Roman Catholic, against the Roman Catholics, and there were several arguments against the Filioque formulated. So if you have watched my previous videos talking about energetic, eternal manifestation, energetic procession, economic procession, and those things, a lot of those arguments come from the Black Knight Synod. This synod was accepted kind of officially against Roman Catholicism. Another synod that is also dogmatic is the Hesychast Synods. There's 6 of them, and some people refer to them as the 9th Ecumenical Council. The Hesychast Synods and the person of Saint Gregory Palamas, because Hesychast Synods defended the person of Saint Gregory Palamas and exonerated him, they are accepted and celebrated in the 2nd Sunday of Lent, in the Sunday of Saint Gregory Palamas, which, by the way, the Uniates celebrate the Sunday of Saint Gregory Palamas as well, right? So this, and I'm not even getting into even the later synods that were also dogmatic in the Orthodox Church, that made dogmatic pronouncements, but these are post-schism councils. These are dogmatic pronouncements. This just directly proves that Orthodox Christianity can indeed make dogmatic pronouncements without having the Pope. We don't need the Pope to make dogmatic pronouncements. It's really as simple as that. Fact 5. There are many dogmatic councils that are not ecumenical councils. The Black Knight 1285 is, again, another example of this, but the Quinisex Council is also an example. Is a dogmatic synod that was accepted by the 7th Ecumenical Council, certainly. And there are other local synods that were accepted by ecumenical councils, and this is why those synods are accepted as, dogmatic as well in some sense. But the Quinisex Council is just an example of this, at least for the East. So again, there's a difference between dogmatic council and ecumenical council. Not, all ecumenical councils that are accepted are dogmatic councils. So I'm talking about the first 7 ecumenical councils, the Photian Synod, the Hesychast Synods, right? Those are dogmatic, and they're also ecumenical. But Quinisex, Blackerne, they're not ecumenical, but they're nevertheless dogmatic, right? There's still dogmatic pronouncements these are still councils that make dogmatic pronouncements about the Orthodox faith. And finally, fact 6 is that the ecumenical councils were not just accepted, they were not just waiting to be called ecumenical by the Pope, right? The first instance of something even resembling this happening is really in the Lateran Synod in 649, and it didn't even happen in the way that is happening in the Roman Catholic Church after the Schism, interestingly enough. The acceptance of ecumenical councils, there was a period of reception by the church. So what does this mean? So for example, the Persian church, I think it took them 80 years. The Metropolitan Hilarion Althea talks about this. It took the Persian church 80 years to accept the first ecumenical council of Nicaea. But let me give you an even a more, I suppose, a bolder example. Again, about the first ecumenical council. Even in churches where the first ecumenical council was accepted, the way in which they saw the council and accepted it was kind of different in which we accept it today. So, for example, if you read Sozomen's ecclesiastical history, he notes that Arius was in fact received back into the church 10 years after the first ecumenical council. Not a lot of people know about this, but he was in fact received back into communion with churches that accepted the first ecumenical council. So with the Nicene churches, he was in communion with Nicene churches 10 years after the Nicene Council. So this, in fact, proves that even at that time, even by the churches that accepted the council, there was a period in which these councils were received and understood and interpreted correctly. Another example is the Fourth Ecumenical Council, the Council of Chalcedon. Well, it took a century for Chalcedon to have kind of a dogmatic interpretation of it, because between the 5th and the 6th centuries, there were four main interpretations of the Council of Chalcedon. There was a Nestorianizing interpretation. Nestorians arguing that Chalcedon is a Nestorian council. Monophysite interpretation, which basically just rejected the council and agreed with the Nestorian interpretation, in which they said, yes, this is a Nestorian council, and that's why we reject it. Then there's the Origenist interpretation. This is all noted in Patrick Gray's book on defense of Chalcedon in the East. There's the Origenist interpretation, which is why the Fifth Ecumenical Council, by the way, makes anathematizations, has anathemas against Origenism. This is why the Fifth Council deals with Origen, is because there was an Origenist interpretation of the Fourth Council, and kind of an Origenistic revival at the time as well. And then there's a Cyrillic Chalcedonian interpretation, or you can call this the Orthodox interpretation of the Council of Chalcedon, in which the Fifth Ecumenical Council officially dogmatized. Another example I want to use is that the Seventh Ecumenical Council that deals with icons, well, it was accepted, 70 years later in a local synod in Constantinople in 843, right? So a local synod is what really was the mode in which the church received the Seventh Council as dogmatic. And by the way, in the West, the Seventh Council wasn't even really accepted initially during the time of Charlemagne and the Carolingian theologians. In fact, the Seventh Council was rejected due to, mainly due to political reasons, but still, nevertheless, it was rejected. Of course, the West accepted the Seventh Ecumenical Council, although in what manner they accepted it, that's up for debate. But that's a topic for a different video. The point that I'm making here is that all ecumenical councils had a period. They weren't just, after they were done, it wasn't just that, okay, now everyone has to accept it, right? I mean, they were just the news, the acts of the council, the results of the council, they were kind of sent across the Christian ecumene, the Christian world, and the churches received it as true. That's kind of in their local synods and ratified it as a dogmatic synod. And that's kind of how all of the churches ended up accepting these ecumenical councils. That's the mode in which they were received. Not just having one guy in Rome saying, you have to believe this now because I said so. That's not really how it worked historically, and it's not how it's working today. It's only something that works in the Roman Catholic Church, which is not based on the Church of the first millennium and the Church of the 8 ecumenical councils, the first 7 ecumenical councils, right? It's not really the Church of the first 7 ecumenical councils. And that's what I want to end this video on, is that there's a different understanding of what an ecumenical council is in the East and the West. And this video try to explore that. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. And I want to end this by giving a shout out to all of my financiers on Patreon. If you want to become one of them, you can check the link in the description below and join either the $5 tier or the $15 tier with some quite interesting, I will say, bonuses. So thank you to Diet Sodalite, Allison, Eddie, Father Justin, Node, Maximus, Mitch, Jonathan, Stephen, Vlad, Carrie, Ignatius, Mike, Jack, Nectaris, Flooded Basement, Dave, Colton, Seraphim, and Norbert. Thank you all for supporting my channel, and I will see all of you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and may God be with you all. Goodbye.